Okay, tonight I'm going to be rushing quickly. I think that the media would need to be catching up with me because I have quite a number of things to say. And somewhere along the line, I might speak off the cuff because of the kind of thing I want to be talking about today. It's titled The Power of Habits. Everybody say with me, the power of habits. Come on, say it loudly, the power of habits. Now, it's very important for you to understand that when you set your goals at the beginning of the year, the difference between where you are at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year may not be the clarity of goals or lack of goal setting. One major thing that will make a difference in what you will have at the end of the year is the power of habits. One of the major reasons people aren't able to achieve their goals at the end of the year or anytime they're supposed to have achieved their goals is because they have good goals, they have great intentions, but they don't have corresponding habits that will propel the goals into execution. So when you say that I'm going to become great, I'm going to do this, I'm going to build this business, I'm going to save this amount, all of those things are things that are quite easy to say. And all of those things are desirable. But do you have the habits that match the things that you desire? And that's why a research was carried out and they say something like, culture eats strategy for breakfast. When we teach in corporate organizations, we tell you that the reason some great ideas, wonderful ideas, things that would change the world, the reason they would never happen is because culture eats strategy for breakfast. Strategy is excellent. Strategy is wonderful. I teach strategy. I can imagine the impact of strategy if well executed. But we have discovered that in almost every organization, the reason the strategy will fail is not because the strategy is not good. The reason it will fail sometimes is not because they don't have the money or the resources or the right people to make it happen. The reason it will fail is because of something called organizational culture. And the organizational culture is as a result of habits. So it's the same way for organization as culture eats strategy for breakfast. Your habits will either propel your vision or destroy your vision. If you have the right habits, you would see that your vision, you're just an inch closer to your vision. But if you have the wrong habits, you would realize that you will keep going farther away from those visions. I remember when somebody told the story of the Wall of China, and I'm laying the foundation with these stories because I believe that you probably remember them much more than all the points I'm going to give. So it's important to bear them in mind. Remember the first thing I said is culture does what? Come on, say it loudly. Everybody say after me, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Meaning that brilliant ideas will not see the light of day because of organizational culture. The same way, if your habits don't change, your goals will never become a reality. So you sometimes need a change of habits. Some of the things you're praying about, you just need a change of habits to be able to get them done. In addition to the prayer, whatever it is that you do, you need to work on the habit. So I was going to tell you the story of the Wall of China as I heard it. And the story was that they wanted to build this wall, or maybe not necessarily the Wall of China, but think about a large wall built around an entire city. And that's because they wanted to stop all the thieves that were coming into that city, and they didn't want them to get in. So the thieves were looking at them as they built the wall, thinking, oh, this is really a good one. They built a wall. But you see, the day the thieves came, after they built the wall, they didn't have to use the wall. They spoke with the gatemen, bribed them, and walked in through the door. So the question is, was it a good thing that they built the wall? But they did not solve the issue of corruption. So even with a thick, strong wall, in fact, it became easier for the thieves because they didn't have to climb over the wall. They just actually went through the gatekeepers of the gates. So there are times it is not the enemy that will destroy the visions that you have. Your own habits will be the destroyer of the visions. And that's why I told you that story, so that you can see that even as you pray against the enemies, you pray against the things that you expect would be hindrances, obstacles, and all of that. You pray for finances, you pray for provisions and all of that. What about the habits that you have? Because your habits can determine whether you achieve the goal or you don't achieve the goal. For example, when I teach time management, one of the things I also tell them is that if as a student you want to make first class, when do you start studying if you get into the university? Day one of the semester, right? If you do 3 hours on a daily basis, every day of the semester, by the end of that year or by the end of the school session, is it possible to make a first class? Provided your lecturers are not demons. So long as they are not demons, the possibility of a first class is high because you've devoted 3 to 4 hours on a daily basis. And over time, you would be able to regurgitate whatever is in the notes. So when the lecturer is asking a question, you look at the examination, you are reproducing his notes for him. In fact, you become a suspect because they are wondering how come you're able to replicate the notes. Have you seen people like that? They bring them back into the exam and come and write this exam again. We want to be sure that you actually wrote this exam by yourself. And guess what? Some of them, when you ask them to rewrite, you even give them a chance to pass them all. Because when they left the examination hall, they even remembered certain things. So when you give them another chance, they passed. So which one are you now going to use as the scores? So having laid that foundation, let me begin to talk about. The first thing is, what's the first thing you do in the morning? When you wake up, there are some people, the first thing they do in the morning is pick up their phones. In these days of smartphone, in these days of social media. So if that's one of the first things that you do in the morning, as soon as you wake up, you already have a habit that would not allow you to become productive. If that's the last thing you drop before you go to bed every night, you already have a habit that would not allow you to become productive. Guess what? There are statistics and there are people say that if you check your phone before going to bed or you pick it up when you wake up first thing in the morning, apart from the fact that you're working against your own eyes, it will disrupt your sleep pattern because of the blue light from the screen. Even a TV is not advisable for you to have it in your room. However, if you do, people have said repeatedly, stay away from screen at least 1 hour before you go to bed. So if you pick up your phone first thing as you're waking, except of course if you're using it as a tool for some productive activities, and of course you know whether it is productive or not. Not that you wake up, as soon as you open your eyes, you already landed on TikTok. As soon as you open your eyes, you are back to Instagram where you left off before you slept. If that's one of your habits, you need to check it because your first few habits every morning would determine some of the results you have in life. And they will determine the things you eventually achieve. Next thing is, what is the last thing you do before going to bed? I've already talked about that too. The last thing you do before going to bed, the first thing you do when you wake up, they are great determiners of the person that you become or the results that you have. And this is just by the way, one day when my father was alive, he came into my room one morning and he found a pen in my pocket. And the next thing he said was that, meaning, are you even writing while you were sleeping? But because that was the last thing I did before going to bed, he would come into my room in the middle of the night and find me working on my computer. And sometimes he just didn't understand, would ask me, what are you still working on at this time of the day? So he came in one morning and realized that as I was working on the system, that's how I went to bed with a pen in my pocket. The habits you develop, the habits you cultivate would determine a great thing in your life. Have you ever taken habits because someone else had that habit? How many of you? You took on a habit because someone else had the habit. How many of you? Come on, confess now. So you notice that when you take on habits because someone else had the habit, one of the things that will likely happen to you is that you are an unintentional recipient of habits, whether good or bad. And one of the stories I can quickly share with you was the story of a young lady who got married, and after getting married, she started cutting fishes in very tiny pieces and would fry it like that for the husband. And one day the husband, being curious, said to her, "Why do you fry fishes like this?" And the next thing she said is, "I don't know, that's the way my mother does it." And she said, "Okay, but have you ever asked her why she does it this particular way?" He said, "No, I never asked." So one day they went to the mother's house, who is now the mother-in-law, and said, "Ma, why do you fry fishes this way? Because I noticed that's the way my wife also fries it." And she said, "Well, I don't know. That's the way my mother also fries it. And I started doing it that way." So it means that it started from the grandmother. Then one day, there was a grandma. Thankfully, the grandmother was still alive. And they saw the grandmother and said, "Grandma, why do you fry fishes like this?" And grandma said, "I had a small frying pan. So the fishes would not fit. I would then cut them into pieces so that they can fit. That's why I fried fishes in that particular manner." Now, the daughter, not understanding what was behind the philosophy of what the mother did, simply took on what she saw, not understanding the principle, and copied exactly what she did. So the daughter now also saw what she did and carried it on to the husband's house. There was no problem with their own frying pan. They had a bigger one. They had air fryer. It could accommodate all the things, but the philosophy behind it, I have a small frying pan, which is why I fry my fishes this way, affected a decision of somebody who didn't ask questions. So the person took on a habit without asking questions. And many of us sometimes take on habits without asking questions. You know, if I begin to do something in this particular place now, maybe I do it often and I come on stage a lot. Before you know it, you see people who start doing it. Some of the things that Pastor Barry is doing now, if you check some of you, just check. Some of you now, you started doing, some of you too, you started doing rhymes. And there are some people, all of a sudden, you know that there are some of our famous pastors all over the country, and you notice that somebody gets on stage unconsciously, they begin to speak like them. There are habits we pick up, either good or bad, unintentionally. I know of a particular pastor, every time he's on stage, he's always doing like this. There's nothing wrong with the shirt. There is no problem with it, but over time, he has picked up the habit of adjusting. So even when there's nothing to be adjusted, he will adjust the shirt that doesn't need to be adjusted. Because of habits. So what are we going to learn from that story of somebody who simply started frying a fish in a certain way, not understanding why the generations before fried it? One major thing is that we should not be morons. We should not be dummies. We shouldn't just do something because it looks like it's trendy or that's what every other person is doing. When you see actions, understand the principle or the philosophy behind those actions. Ask questions. Why are you doing it? If you copy what other people are doing without asking questions, you're not different from a robot. Because that's what in fact, that is what artificial intelligence is. Artificial intelligence is supposed to study human beings, look at all the things that we do, understand all the things that we know, and replicate it for other people. So how are you better than a machine if all you do is watch what other people do and just replicate? So you need to do better than that. All right, the next one is, can you name those habits that you just got by watching someone else? Anyone else? Anyone? Some habits you picked up by watching other people. From your dad, from your mom, siblings, friends. Quickly, even if it's the bad ones. Some of you picked up smoking because you had friends who smoked. Some of you picked up the heavy one. Don't worry, Pastor Barry is not looking. Waking up early because you saw someone wake up. What else? Which other habits did you pick up? Okay, yes? Just chorus the habits so that I can run. Okay. Okay. You started doing the same thing. Okay, there's somebody that greets and she started greeting exactly like that. Is there another hand? Yes? How to sing. Okay. You picked up how to sing. Perfect. Now, let me, as a speaker, one of the things I can tell you that connects to what she's saying about how to sing, I noticed that if I listen to certain public speakers or pastors over time, the next thing is that I notice that when I'm going on stage, it's as if I'm hearing their voices through myself. Then I'm oh my God. There was a tape of one pastor in this Lagos. I must have listened to that tape, a single tape, a particular one. I must have listened to it not less than 400 times. And I calculated it couldn't have been less than 400 times. So I will start saying something. So when the message starts playing, I know what he's going to say next. I will say it and all of that. And then I read one of his books, the same thing. So sometimes we pick up habits from that. So what would you do differently? Number one, you already know that because habits can be picked up intentionally or unintentionally, be more deliberate about the habits that you are picking up. Or be more deliberate about what you are imitating from other people. So, why haven't you been able to change the habits that you desire to change? Habits are strong, right? How many of you agree that habits are very strong? Habits can become addictions. Why is it that habits can become addictions? The same way you allowed it to come into your life unconsciously and you began to do it, that's exactly why it looks like it's an addiction. If you start doing, take for example, if you don't correct a child holding a pen in a particular way and starts writing, maybe after the age of 5, 6, would it be easy to correct that child again? As they say here, it has become dried fish. It's difficult to bend. If you try to bend it, what will happen? You break it. Fortunately for us, we're human beings. We're not dried fish. There is almost nothing that apart from maybe writing, some of you forget your writing, there's no hope for you again. You're already adults. Some of you, your posture, well, you can still work on it, exercising and all of that. But there are still certain things that you can still change if the habits are bad, particularly if the habits constitute a sin. There are habits that may not be sinful, but they may not allow you get to your goals. And there are habits that are sinful and still will not allow you get to your goals. So you need to work on this. So what are habits? Habits are small decisions you make and actions you perform every day. Habits are small decisions you make and actions you perform every day. Take, for example, if you wake up and the first thing you do is to jump up 5 times. Before you know it, it becomes a habit to jump up 5 times. And all your family members will start doing what? Wake up and do what? Jump up 5 times. They may not even understand why you're jumping, but it becomes a habit. If you wake up in the morning and you decide to dance, maybe your routine is a dance exercise and you do it consistently. Some people believe that if you do something consistently over a period of 21 days, you have gradually formed a habit. So if you do that, then it becomes a habit. So habits are small decisions. Emphasis on small decisions. But here's the problem. The fact that it is small does not mean that it does not have consequences. The fact that it is small does not mean that it cannot stop the big dreams. Because the problem with it is that it is small, however, it is always consistent. How do people become big? Just hit a mountain of eba on a daily basis. Take, for example, now that fasting is over, you get back home tonight, you say all the food you didn't eat during fasting, you now want to devour them together. So they give you eba, you say, what's this? Multiply it by 2 now. Don't you know that all the intestines have been waiting for the fasting to be over? And then after a while, what will happen to your stomach? Your stomach automatically adjusts to the size of the portion that you are getting used to. So your stomach enlarges to accommodate your eating habits. The same thing, if you drink, that's why some of you have abused malaria drugs to the point that you take it, it has no effect on you. You have abused paracetamol, Panadol to the point that you take it, it no longer has any effect on you. It's a habit that became bad. So then, habit is also a settled tendency or usual manner of behavior. A settled tendency or usual manner of behavior. Let me move on from that. So the power of habits. You need to understand that when you form habits, the habits will determine the things that you achieve in life. So let's say, for example, you want to write a book. Do you wake up, start now, write the book from morning, consistently, you don't take any break, and by the following day, the book is finished? Is that how it works? What do? You wake up, write some paragraphs first. Then, after a while, you write another set of paragraphs. If you're lucky, if you're really good, you can write a whole chapter at a stretch. Then you come back to it the following day and do what? Write again. Then you come back the next day and do what? Write again. Any great writer will tell you that the secret of becoming a great writer is to write consistently. And any great speaker will also tell you what? The secret of becoming a great speaker is to speak consistently. And any pastor will tell you that one of the best ways to improve your sermon is to do what? Teach regularly, in addition to all the things that you have learned, reading the Bible, studying the word, praying and everything. But to become better too at delivering it effectively, what must you do? Deliver it effectively. So habits become set. Now let me give you an illustration. In construction or in engineering, there's something that they call sets. Think about a cast. I'm using words that I need to explain to you. Now, think about wood, just wood. Mako, wood. You know wood now? And don't look at me like you don't know wood now. So that Mako, wood, that we have made like a rectangular shape out of it. And we put it on the floor. Because we want to create something called concrete slab. So that either cars can drive over it or human beings can walk over. But the first thing we do is what? Construct the wooden frame. After we construct the wooden frame, what do we then do? Mix the cement, isn't it? Now, when we mix the cement and pour it into the wooden frame, what happens to the cement? It takes the shape of the concrete, right? After a few hours, the first thing it does is that it takes the shape. But after a few hours, what then happens to it? It sets into the wooden frame. That's what we call mindset. The things you take into your mind as it enters into your mind,
things you take into your mind, the information you take into your mind, everything that goes into your mind, as it enters into your mind on a daily basis, what does it do? It sets. In the concrete, what do we have in the concrete? Granite, right? What else do we have in the concrete? Cement. What else do we have in concrete? Sand. What else do you have in concrete? Sorry? Water. What else would be in the concrete? Iron rod. Now, as you pour it into that thing, and it takes the shape of the wooden frame, 2 days later, would you be able to lift that same thing? Would you be able to separate the granite? Would you be able to separate the stone? Will you be able to separate the cement? Can you separate the iron rod? That's how powerful habits are. It's bit by bit. You kept picking and dropping, picking and dropping, picking and dropping. That's how you became set. And at that point, the only thing you can do is what? Break it. Because you can't put them apart anymore. When you were putting them apart, you did it unit by unit, unit by unit. But now it has become set. The only way is to break it. And remember, one of the things that the Bible says is, be you continually transformed by what? By the renewing of your mind. So if you don't actually become conscious of what goes into your mind and what you do on a daily basis, you will be forming a habit that will set into your mind. And once the habit sets into your mind, what happens to you? It can work against you or it can work for you. You see that same concrete? If we take the slab and we set it properly into the place that we want to set it in, cars can drive over it, isn't it? Human beings can walk over it, isn't it? But the same habit, if it doesn't form correctly and you leave it there and there is no light, when human beings are walking, they can trip because of it. Is that not so? So the same slab that can carry a car can also kill you. It's the same thing for the habits. So just as much as you can form habits that can help you become a better person, become successful, smash your goals, set the goals, triple your sales, scale your businesses and everything, the same set of habits, if not careful, can also destroy you. They told you smokers are liable to die young. The person selling the thing says that you take this thing, you are liable to die young. You still bring out money from your pocket, still buy it. They show you one liver and say this one is the liver, or what do they show us again? Is it not liver? Or kidney? Or lungs? Okay, thank you. They show you the lungs of a non-smoker and show you how clean it is. And then they show you the lungs of a smoker and show you how bad it is. And you still say, now something go kill man one day. Do you understand? Can you see the power of habits? So if you have been unconsciously taking on habit, you're most likely going to take the habit that will kill you. So habit formation. Habit formation is the process by which a behavior, through regular repetition, becomes automatic or habitual. Now you notice that it is no longer habit. It has become what? It has become what? Oh, you're not following me. First of all, I said, is by which a behavior, emphasis behavior. So from habit, it became what? Behavior. And people will see and say, that's his behavior, that's his character. Where did it start from? Habits. Little things that you do become the behavior. So if the behavior is desirable and people like it, what happens to you? Everybody likes you, everybody helps you. But if the behavior is not desirable, what happens to you? That's why if your father shouts at your mother, unconsciously, you pick up the habit of shouting at women. That's why if your mother used to slap your father, as a woman, you become the man of the house. It is only by gender that you have a husband, but in character, you are the man. You are the terror of the house. And that's why it's so important to make sure that the habits we're picking, we make sure that children, young people don't pick up those habits, because those habits can destroy them. And they grow up, they don't even know why they have some of those habits. So in your workplace, in your businesses, and I'm going to link it up to finances and things like that. And you'll notice that one of the reasons your businesses will never grow, or one of the reasons you will not get promoted in the workplace, is sometimes because of habits. I remember somebody sharing a story, and the person says, in that office, they like eye service too much. Everybody will just go and be greeting. Everybody will just go and be greeting. And then he went to one pastor and said, please, pastor, pray for me. He's asking, does he greet? Or does she greet the boss? He said, no, I don't like it. Everybody is doing eye service. Everybody is doing her service. I don't need to pray for you. Go and
boss every morning. In less than 3 months, she got double promotion. Habits. While it is true that some people will have some hypocritical habits, but habits are, you can choose. So in other words, you form a habit based on what you do repeatedly. How do you form a habit? Based on what you do repeatedly. Just like in the place of prayer, if you pray repeatedly, what does prayer become to you? Prayer becomes a habit. If you study the word of God repeatedly, what does it become to you? It becomes a habit. If you meditate repeatedly, what does it become to you? It becomes a habit. Anybody who knows me, I've been saying it for years, I can never be sick. You are looking at me instead of saying your own. I have been saying it for, I can never be sick. Sickness is not permitted in my body. My body is the temple of the Most High God. It's the temple of the Holy Spirit. It is impossible for me to say, I mean, Jesus cannot be sick. I can't be sick. I've been saying it for years. I said, Pastor Adeboye at 83 is not sick. Where will sickness come from? So when I say things like that, it's become a habit for me over the years. And when we tell people you need to have a can-do spirit, you need to have a can-do mindset, it's as a result of what? Habits. So you need to bear that in mind. Now, how habits are formed? Habit formation may be explained in two terms: physiological and psychological. Physiological and psychological. When we talk about physiological habits, sometimes your habits are related to your nervous system. How many of you have tried to play the keyboard and you just realize that you just never can play the keyboard? How many of you have tried to sing and to drum at the same time? When you started singing, the rhythm was good. But the moment you decided to add drumming to the singing, all of a sudden everything scattered. Has it happened to you before? It's a physiological thing. You don't have it in your nervous system. So forget it. Don't blame yourself. You can never, there's nothing you would do on this earth that will allow you to sing and drum at the same time if you don't have it. It's a neural thing. There's something called neuro-linguistic programming, but let's leave that. Don't let me go into that. But you see, you need to understand that there are sensors, there are neurons that connect your brain to your neck and then to your fingers. They are the ones that coordinate the things that you can do with your hands. If those neurons in your brain do not agree with what you are trying to do, nothing on earth can make it possible. But you notice that somebody else can be playing the drum, is singing, and puts one stick in their hand, doing another thing, still playing the drum and still singing. Have you seen people like that? And you say, wow, this person is ambidextrous. Can use their right, can use their left hand. Have you seen people, you are still struggling to have a fine handwriting. Somebody else now does not only have a fine handwriting, can use both left and right hands. And both of them are fine. And you're wondering, I mean, how can I'm still struggling to have a good handwriting, and somebody can use both the left and the right hands at the same time. They are ambidextrous. It's a neural thing. So you need to understand that. Then the psychological one is the one that connects to your behavior, the things that you see, environments, things that you take in. Take, for example, if you grow up in a praying house, what do you become? A praying machine or a praying mantis. If you grow up in a house where they study the word of God, what do you become? An addict of the word. If you grow up in a house where take for example, some people, some states, don't let me mention some states, but I hope you're not from Ekiti or from Ondo, Did I mention states? You see, in such states, everybody, the breakthrough of some of those states is that everybody enters the teaching service commission. Am I lying? Bring together, do a census of the entire household when you see people from that region. Bring them out, do a census. More than 75% of them will be teachers. It's like a vision. Everybody wants to become a teacher. But I'm not saying that, of course, there are great people. Please don't misunderstand. Just in case there are people from Ondo and Ekiti and you are watching, please, I'm not saying, I'm not saying that they don't do greater things. They do a lot of greater things. But it's a habit as a result of what? Environment. But take the same set of people. Somebody says in this part of the world, what we do a lot, our children would play with sand and everything. But take the same child to China. There's a young man. His name is Silas Adekunle. Go and Google Silas Adekunle. The most expensive robotics engineer in the world is a Nigerian who grew up, I think, in Oyo State. A Nigerian. Lives now in the United States. Most expensive robotics engineer in the world.
But the habits, the things that he does, they are what? Maybe because they took him out of the environment early, he's able to change some of those habits. So there are also intellectual habits. That's why some of you, I know some people don't agree that mathematics can be intellectual, right? But some other people agree mathematics. How many of you, once you see the y, the x, you're already confused? Don't worry, you're not alone. I'm with you in that category. All like me, if you're talking about grammar, you're talking about, I still understand what you're talking. But when mathematics now starts looking for their x, my question is, what's my business with your x? Go and find your x by yourself. Why are you asking me to look for your x? I'm already confused. So there are intellectual habits. That's why you notice that some people will tell you, marry a person that is intelligent too. They say, okay, now if you marry somebody and your children come back with mathematics homework, who will do the homework for the child? That was just a joke. So there are intellectual habits. Let me go on. There are habits of character as well. You need to work on those habits. We express some of our characters in the form of habits. For example, helping others who are in need. One of the things that I picked from my father, if anything at all, one of them is generosity. One of the things that I also picked from him is there are certain things that I see him do, and till date, I just noticed that, man, I cannot break away from these things, and they are for good. But sometimes, too, you just notice that there are some things you don't like. How many of you have seen things you don't like in your parents, but you're beginning to exhibit some of them? Don't do like this. Raise it properly. Those are habits as well. They are habits of character, and you can work on them. So it's very important. So what can determine habits? What can determine habits, whether good or bad? Number one is a goal. A goal can determine your habit. I've noticed that there was a particular year I said I wanted to write 365 articles. How did I come up with that goal? One of the things I did was I just thought to myself, wait a minute, some people write open heavens. That's 365 or 366 if it's a leap year articles for you to have 1 year devotional. And it's not just one person, several people are doing it. And then I realized there are people, if I set my heart to it, it's something I could do. And then I set the goal for that year. So it became my habit to wake up every morning, and one of the things after maybe prayer or anything I want to do, one of the first things I would then do is to write for 365 days. The moment I set that habit, one of the things I did was that it became a lot easier to achieve that goal. You know, if you say that you want to write for 365 days, it will look impossible, right? Take a look at the 100 days. Was it not, or did it not appear impossible for so many people? But you take it one day at a time. What happens at the end of the day? Before you know it, 100 days, are they not gone now? So you take it one day at a time. You can use goal to form a habit. Then you can use supportive peers to form a habit. That's why they tell anybody trying to break bad habits, one of the things they tell them to do is to make sure that they are not alone. Be within a support system. Be with other people. Take, for example, you want to stop smoking, you want to stop drinking, you want to stop womanizing. One of the things they tell you is don't do it alone. You want to stop drinking beer, and you still have beer in your fridge. What is it doing in your fridge? You want to be admiring it? And then you go in the middle of the night, you open your fridge, and as soon as the light in your fridge comes on, the first direction it goes to is what? It has a direct reflection shining directly like the rays of the sun to where the bottle is. So if you don't want to drink it, what do? Take it out. It should never be in your sight at all. And like as they say here in Yoruba, whatever you are not going to eat, don't bring it close to your nose. You say, nothing will happen. We're not going to do anything. You know that this brother you went to visit does not have a chair, a sitting room settee. The only thing he has is only a mattress. If you go and visit him, what will you sit on? What will you sit on? From sitting for a few minutes, after a while, you sit straight. All of a sudden, you just notice that your back is paining. After your back is paining you, what will happen to you? You know the rest of the story. Another thing that can help you form habit is friendly environment.
You see 5-year-olds learning to play keyboard or playing keyboard dexterously. You see 10-year-olds playing the saxophone. There's a young teenage girl that's making the waves all over the internet now, Abodorin. And if you see how well she plays the saxophone, but you know that it's a habit that was formed as a result of the kind of environment. How did I start using computer? At the age of maybe 17, 18. And in those days, having a personal computer was a big deal. But I had an uncle who was a computer engineer. And then my dad was also interested. That's how they bought me a desktop computer. And before you know it, I was all over the thing. I would sit with it. How many of you use Mavis Bacon teaches typing? How many of some people now will not know the meaning of Windows XP? There's no way the Gen Zs will know the meaning of Windows XP. Windows 98, where you can partition your system. On one side is Windows XP. On the other side is Windows Professional. And then if anything happens to your system, you open the box, you bring out the hard disk by yourself. Oh my God. The days of diskettes. If you bring out a diskette, somebody said, a child said to his father when he saw an old diskette from the father, he said, wait, did you do, you know this diskette now has become an icon for saving things on the computer, right? He said, how did you do a 3D printing of the saving icon? That's what the son said to the father. He said, look at you, come and see the days of diskettes. 100 naira diskette, you buy a pack, 1,000 naira. So another way you can form habits is what? Determination. You can form a habit from goals, from supportive peers, friendly environments, determination, and you can form a habit from challenge as well. Something can challenge you. If there's anything that has challenged me ever, is that we need to do something. It looks like people are now they're forming, they say, no, we're too expensive, we're going to charge this amount. Before you know it, that thing now propels me to look for an alternative, to do it and even do it in a cheaper way. So opportunities can also propel you to form habits. Then encouragement can help you to form habits. These are the things that can help you to form habits. Also rewards. Now, encouragement can be both good or bad. A child walks into a mall. Because the child is angry, you chose not to buy something for the child. And say, leave him. Oh, he's just having a bad time. Because you chose not to buy something for him, he brings down the entire row in a supermarket. Oh, you never seen those videos online? And then the mother will say, leave him, don't touch him. I say, please just bring this child to Nigeria for 2 days. But again, even here, there are some things that your children are doing that you are becoming an enabler for bad habits for some of your children. They do certain things. Some of you know your children are manipulative. They go to mommy, they ask for something, mommy says no, then they go to daddy. And daddy does not know that mommy already said no. Because daddy does not know mommy already said no, what does daddy do? Daddy says yes. And when mommy says, but I told you not to, then he tells mommy daddy said yes. And sometimes daddy also knows that mommy already said no. Or mommy also knows that daddy already said no. But somehow, maybe because you even have personal issues, you don't have a united voice to rebuke the child. Well done, sir. Well done, ma. You see, by the time the child will use your heads to play basketball against each other, you'll be wondering what hit you. Please be united when it comes to correcting your children. And the final one is rewards. But again, be careful with rewards. Some rewards can promote negative habits. Or take, for example, your child does something at home and you say, oh, you did well. I remember when I was growing up, how many of you remember Gold Sports? Limca. I mean, that was my favorite reward. If my father asked me to do certain things in the house, he say, Okari, Otishiabi. Okay, Yalomu Go Sports, come back. Go and take one Go Sports there, or go and take one. Some people are wondering what is Gold Sports. If you don't get it. So, factors that determine habits. Let's quickly, because I'm running out of time, I need to wrap up in probably about 5 minutes. Number one is what? Family. Those are factors that determine habits. Number one is family. Number two is what? Environment. Environments determine habits. And number three is what? Personality types. I don't want to go too much into personality types, but we have the choleric, we have the sanguine, you have the phlegmatic, you have the melancholic. Choleric, a bit aggressive, go-getter, get anything they want. Sanguine, talkative, know how to present vision. Phlegmatic, analytical, they know details and everything. The melancholic, they are emotional, they can be moody, they have a lot of mood swings and everything. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have different combinations of those temperaments. Don't worry if you don't grab that. That's not my focus. That's why I'm brushing over it. But family can determine habits, environment can determine habits, personality types can determine habits, but you can also redetermine your own habits. Then, for again, your goals. Okay, I already mentioned those ones. Let me just go to habits formation process and I'll stop there for today. That's how much we can take. What are the habits formation process? Number one is what? Open mind. Everybody say open mind. Be open-minded. I remember there was a training I was doing some years ago for one of the new banks that just came in, that they started in the country. And I was telling a young lady, it was a presentation skills, and we're talking about business writing. And I was telling them that this is the way to do this thing. And one young girl kept arguing with me. He said, no, I've worked somewhere before. This is how they taught us we must do it. And I was wondering, even if you have worked somewhere before, how many years experience do you have compared to the person standing before you and talking to you? And she kept arguing. She argued to the point that the entire class was embarrassed on her behalf. Then the training manager had to intervene and say, keep quiet. You can go and check it later. So if you don't have an open mind, even when something is obviously not correct, or maybe the times and the seasons have changed, what you used to know is now outdated. What do? Learn something new. So to form a new habit, you need to have an open. Then your thoughts will gradually become a habit. Oh, it would be nice to do this thing. Oh, it would be nice to, take for example, it would be nice to just have a drink and hang out with friends. I've never done it before. Before you know it, what happens? It becomes a habit. Oh, it would be nice to do this. Before you know it, speaking of that, something just came to my mind now, and I almost cannot say it. How many of you have heard? Please don't tell anybody. How many of you have heard of something they call rainbow kiss? Oh, you don't know what it means, right? Mommy, let me tell you. Have you heard it before? You never heard it before. It's terrible. 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 I will tell her, I won't tell you. Go ahead if you want to find out. That's what is going on online now. That's what is going on online now. It's don't worry, forget about it. Another way you can form habit is pictures and observation. When you look at some pictures long enough, just like the Bible says, as we behold him as in a mirror, what happens to us? We are transformed into his image. So pictures and observation. Then decisions. Everybody say decision. Decisions can help you form habits. Then actions. Remember, we said that habit is actually something you do repeatedly. Actions also form a habit. And number 6, commitment. Everybody say commitment. Remember the example of first class. If you read day 1, you don't read day 2. You read month 1, you don't read month 2. Will you have your first class? So it has to have commitment. Then it must have reward. And finally, it must have what? Repeat. So let me end by saying this. I've said at the beginning of this year. Now let me ask you, which one of your goals this year has actually helped you to form a new habit? Which one of you, whether it's your career goal, whether it's your business goal, take for example, think about money. If you don't save money when you don't have a lot, you will never save when you earn more. There is an economic law that makes us understand that your expenses will always rise to meet your income. Is the law of demand. And some of you now, you don't like wristwatches. You don't even like wristwatches at all. Next thing, money starts entering your hand. We'll just start seeing bling bling in your hand. We'll just start seeing it all over your neck. What's happening? Some of you don't like designer wear. You say, the most important thing is for us to wear clothes. And that's where you are. But the moment you start earning maybe like 750K a month, or all of a sudden, you just start earning 1.5 million a month, what happens? You just realize that my status, my level has passed that phase. So if there are some habits that you already have that you need to break. There are some habits that you need to build in order to achieve your goal. But bottom line is, habits are either helping you or they are in your way. Thank you and God bless you. Can I take questions? Can we take? Okay. Maybe 2 quick questions. Habits are either helping you or they are in your way. Questions? Okay, there's a question somebody wants to ask. Hallelujah.
I want to be more enlightened on this habit. Number one, I want to ask, how can we do away with it? And what are those things to do? Keep you away from some habit that can bring you to some destruction. Two, what about if it is an habit? Maybe you just start doing something that you were in trouble, and then you just felt like you just felt like maybe you are so lonely and something just happened, and you are like trying to do something to keep yourself out of trouble or try to be alone, and then you now form this habit of bringing out something to make you happy, and at the same time, I don't know, does that deprive you from achieving your goal?
Okay, great one. So the first thing is, just as you clearly said for the first question, if you have habits, how do you break those habits? Number one, you remember when I taught on vision boards. What did Mommy Obaro say after I finished talking about vision boards? What did she say? You remember? You should have accountability partners. It shows that you're not doing it. You should have accountability partners. One of the ways to break habits is to open up to other people. Just like Pastor Barrow has taught us repeatedly, sin thrives in what? Secrecy. It's the same with habits. If the habits are bad, it thrives in secrecy. It thrives in not sharing it with other people. But when you have accountability partner, is one of the ways to break the habit. Now, as for the other one, you already said it, that it's as a result of something that happened. You want to avoid trouble and everything. You see, if you make bad choices because you are in trouble, you won't get out of trouble. What happens to you? You fall deeper into trouble. Take, for example, you lie to get out of trouble. If they catch you, most likely, what are you going to do? And somebody said to me years ago, he said, if you lie about something, when they confront you about it, you always have to remember what you said the last time. But if you told the truth, do you have to remember what you said the last time? Because it's the truth. You don't need to struggle to remember it. But if it's the lie, you always have to keep up with it. If you tell one lie today, you must tell two to cover up the first one. If you tell two, you must then tell four to cover up the last two. So it's better to look for the right choices, but more importantly, accountability partners can help. Okay, there's another question here. I think that's the final one I can take.
Praise God.
Hallelujah.
So I want to ask this question. If you find yourself in an organization culture that is a bad culture.
Toxic.
Yeah, toxic. And you're trying to exempt yourself, or because, culture has effects on your personality when you adapt to it fully, and you're trying to not going in with that culture. Are we saying that you are not aligned with the culture? Is it are you not, is it from that organization now, you're trying to no, I don't want to be a part of this. Are we saying that you are not aligned with the organization culture?
So from the way you've described it, it definitely means that the culture itself is negative. Now, there are formal and corporate cultures, and there are informal cultures. Take, for example, the corporate culture would be that in this organization, we are warm, we are open, we are receptive. That's a corporate culture. And you get into the organization, you realize that everybody is warm, open, and what? Receptive towards other people. Now, a negative and informal culture could be that in that office, all the women are gossips and all the men are womanizers. Is that a culture you want to align with? So long as that culture is not a corporate culture, like a strategy helping the organization to achieve their goals, you should never align with it. This culture within that context is a culture of negative habits. Take, for example, somebody sitting as a principality. For example, let me give you a culture in government organizations. One of the cultures in government organizations is that because you have not given somebody money, the person sits on a file of somebody who has served for 35 years and does not allow the file to go on to the next person. So gratuity is not paid for 20 years, probably until the person dies. And then somebody also gets to that level too. He says that's how people are making money. He also continues that culture. Or for example, corruption in civil service, corruption in the police force. It is a culture. But there are still people who will say, I would never be a part of this culture. They will suffer for it, but they know that they can't sack them. Did I answer your question? No. If I didn't answer it, please. Okay, all right. God bless you.